right, welcome to the Who Runs This panel as part of the DC Shorts International Film Festival. Want to go ahead and introduce the panelists for this awesome panel. If you could introduce yourself and your film festival.
Ty Cooper, an Indie Short Film Festival in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Okay.
Lisa Giles, Richmond Film Network and Richmond 48 Hour Film Project.
Kazy Taugina, Newark Independent Film Festival in Delaware, not to be confused with Jersey.
Nice, Newark, Delaware. All right, well, let's start. Wow, first of all, congratulations on being able to produce your own film festival. That in itself is just a great undertaking, just to see the fruits of your labor and host, produce, get filmmakers involved, and, you know, just having a film festival associated with a name attached to it. I think, first of all, that's amazing. Let's just go down the row. If you could talk to us about how it all started. What was your vision for deciding to create your own film festival and everything involved for your very first one?
In 2005, I created a pretty successful film festival in Norfolk, Virginia. And took a break because I was just doing many other projects and so forth. But and then I popped back up, and I was contracted to be a programmer for a festival in Norfolk as well. They saw the success of my first festival, so they asked me, would I, contract with them and do that. And then some time later, I joined the team at Sundance in 2015. So I've been working with them ever since. Still working with them, going back out there in January. And then, but then I became the outreach and promotion consultant for the Virginia Film Festival. So I've been contracted with them, so I work with them as well. And so the Indie Short Film Festival came up as a series. So every other month, I would screen 7 to 9 short films, invite people from around the country to come to Charlottesville to speak on a panel after their film screening. That was every month, every other month. And when I started that, I knew that I wanted to be a full-fledged film festival. But since we already have the Virginia Film Festival in Charlottesville, I was trying to, just check out the market to make sure that it can sustain another festival. Although it's different, it's still a festival in people's eyes. And so from 2019 and then 2023, I said it's time to convert it to a full-fledged festival, and that's what I did. So the first year, in 2024, we screened 73 short films. We had panel discussions, table reads, and screenwriting competition. And then the following year, which was this year, 2025, we screened 110 films. So it jumped from 73 to 110, and a lot more to it. We had workshops and everything. So it's a significant festival.
And you've seen some growth over the years, it seems.
Yeah, immediate growth, it makes you happy.
That does make you happy, for sure. How about you, Lisa? Talk to us about the Richmond Film Network.
The Richmond Film Network is, well, first of all, Ty and I have kind of a little bit of a similar path and approach. Richmond Film Network was kind of born out of a need to support the filmmaking community in Richmond. I have been producing the Richmond 48 Hour Film Project since 2017, and prior to that, I had produced the Virginia High School League Film Festival. So if anybody's heard of the Virginia High School League Film Festival, that's the state championship in film for students, which was created in 2015, I think was the first year that we did that. So launching that in 2015 and then picking up the 48 in 2017, I have been receiving so many contacts and questions and email blowing up, cell phone blowing up. Lisa, can you refer me to someone who does this? Or, do you know where I can get this? So it just became a need to try to manage all those questions and a place to, refer people and to put people in connection with each other. So that's really what the Richmond Film Network was intended to be, is a place where all of the filmmakers can come and have a resource and connect and share information, share resources, share knowledge, so that one, I can stop being asked, the point person for all this, and everybody can be put together. So that was the birth of the actual network, which is an online community platform, essentially. And then from there, it became, well, okay, so these filmmakers are creating. Where can they showcase their work? So that became the place. The short film series became the place for them to have an outlet to screen those films that they were making. And so, like Ty, ours was a monthly festival as well. We did every month, same type of deal. However many films could fit in the 90-minute block, the Q&As after. And then from there, that became, okay, well, what about features? Because, our filmmakers are making features as well. So then that kind of is where we are kind of now, is where we became. The goal has always been to have a place for them to submit more than just annually. We didn't want them to have to wait for a whole year to submit a project, because they're creating year-round. And they want to submit. They don't want to have to, like I said, wait for the whole year to submit. So we wanted to have something more than once a year. So then that kind of wanting to accommodate features and wanting to have something more than once a year, we converted that into a quarterly. So we've had our first three. Joe's film was part of our February festival, and now we're approaching our fourth quarter festival. So that's where we are right now with the with Indie Fest.
So it seems like Lisa and Ty, you have similar scheduling, I guess, ideas to make multiple screenings per month, or per year rather, as opposed to a traditional film festival that has once a year.
Yeah, well, mine is once a year now, but I do once in a while. I would add, because the market, they keep asking it. Let me see some more short films. I'm like, man, you can't wait until March? They no. So
Yeah.
So then I'd say, okay, but I'll try to do it quarterly. But
Yeah.
but it's difficult for me because I have my other business and so forth. So it's kind of tough.
Of course. You mentioned some of the great film festivals like Sundance, and I can imagine being a part of that must be amazing. I want to get back to Sundance, but let's talk to Kazy within Newark Independent Film Festival. Tell us a little bit about how that started and how that came to be.
Sure. I feel like I'm the baby. I just started mine like a year ago. I'm in my second. We just did our second year. The festival was born out of the fact that I've spent the last 15 plus years of my life building a career as an actor, and saw quite a bit of success with it. But as everyone knows, during the pandemic and during 2023, there were strikes. There was a lot of changes that went on in the industry, and I basically saw. I felt as the studios really showed themselves to actors, and in turn, that filters down, right? Like, if you have writers going on strike and you have actors going on strike, and all the people that affects in the studio system, and I really saw the need to build out a supportive community that could exist outside of any type of studio, where a studio can't dictate this and can't dictate that, and creativity isn't stifled by the choking of like intellectual properties, and I really, really wanted to build something outside of that pipeline, because I felt like too many of my brethren, my acting brethren, and people that I had worked with were suffering. And it kind of pissed me off that there wasn't really support. And just like you all are talking about building, communities and supporting filmmakers and actually supporting the art of filmmaking. And that was really what the focus was for me, is to like support the true artists that aren't just driven by, shareholder meetings and whatnot, and actually like allow for networking, and you never know, like someone's shooting a project here, they need a VFX guy, or they need a colorist, or they need someone that does sound or whatever. And yeah, so my first year we just did it at like a movie theater, local movie theater in Newark, Delaware, which is a college town. So during the summer, because it is a college town and the college being their primary economic driver, University of Delaware, the summer months are particularly tough for local businesses. So I felt it would be beneficial to the local area to have the film festival take place during one of the slowest months of the year for local businesses, and that happens to be August. So I put it together. It was kind of like a spur of the moment thing. Got everything popping on Film Freeway, and we found a local movie theater for our first year, and it really went well. And then going into our second year, I realized, having completely sold out the first year, I needed a bigger venue. And the Chapel Street Players, which is an incredible performing arts venue that just got finished in November, completed this brand new 200-plus seat facility in Newark that was still very, very close to what our original facility was. So I brought it to them, and that's going to be our home going forward. In terms of like expanding, and I'm listening to what you all are doing in terms of building out the communities and whatnot, and then possibly doing one-offs. Like, we decided to do a one-off of just like horror-based for this year. So we're actually going to run in about a month or so, just like some horror shorts. And it's really just, it's to kind of give that category its own love, because that tends to be kind of more of a divisive, people that come to see comedies and dramas than see someone, get chased by a slasher.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah. I mean, but it is a taste. So it's like, you can't screen like the animated, piece about like loving each other followed up by like, a serial killer in a clown suit. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like horror can use its own couple of days. Not that we're excluding it from our main festival, but I really just felt like, spooky season, people like doing that kind of stuff. So I'll stop ranting. Thanks.
No, that's quite all right. Yeah. Yeah, it's important to get a lot of genres into the film festivals just to see, because every different genre has something to offer, to the audiences. So I want to talk about the film submission process, the percentage of chances of a filmmaker to have their film showcased in your festival, and what are the criteria for judging your films?
Yeah, that's a stacked question. There's a bunch of answers to those questions. So the process is just like any other process for the most part on Film Freeway. We are located on Film Freeway. We have an early bird submission times, for a moment. It's over now, and then we have regular submission, then we have late submission. I have various categories. And I'm not one of those festivals. I don't have one of those festivals where we have 50 different categories, because and this is not to knock other festivals, but I look at that as a money grab, because people have to pay for each category. And I just don't think it's right. When I've submitted my films to those, and I've received those awards, those laurels, and it makes me happy. Oh yeah, we got recognized. But for me, I understand what that's about from the business side of things, and I just don't do that. So we have best animation, narrative short, documentary, music video, and then we just added best actor, male, female, and best ensemble cast. So those are only categories that we offer. And then we also have a screenwriting competition within the festival, and the top 3 get cash, but they also get table reads as a prize. So when you go to Film Freeway, you just submit, just like any other festival. But then when it comes down to the judges, I have associate programmers. So what I do as the lead programmer, when I get these hundreds of films coming in, I do what Sundance does. I copy of a Sundance, basically. If something is working fabulously, why not implement that, that strategy or that system? So as the programmers, I have these programmers, and I allocate and dedicate certain films to each one. And then they have to advocate for which ones they feel is worthy based on the criterion that we collectively put together. And, so they have theirs throughout the year, and then at the time when it's almost time for late submission, we come together on Zoom, because I have people in California, Pittsburgh. I have a seven-time Emmy Award-winning documentarian who's over the documentaries. We have legitimate people that's over, each section. And then they have to advocate, because we only have 110 slots, but we probably have 300, 400 films to go through. So they have to advocate. So if I see something, because, judging is very subjective, right? And I tell filmmakers all the time, I said, look, if a film festival does not select you, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that your film is good or bad. I tell people the worst films I've ever seen were at Sundance, and the best films I've ever seen were at Sundance. So so I've submitted, and I'm looking at the screen, I'm like, what in the, this beat mine? Who saw this? Who cousin was this? Which program at Sundance did this come through to get the thumbs up, But it's subjective. It's just what it is. But what I do, I try to make sure that I keep my programmers honest and with high integrity. So when they're advocating, I'm looking at the judging sheets, and I'm like, all right, well, this film you gave an 8, but you said that it was poor cinematography but amazing performances, and you said that the editing was great, and you said this and that, right? And I said, well, we got this other one that you gave us a 4, but you said that the cinematography was great, but it was poor performance. I said, so why is this a 4? So we go back and forth. It's not an easy thing. We fight.
Keep that consistency.
Yeah, we fight, and because I'm a filmmaker too. I own a marketing and branding company, but I am a filmmaker. And I know how that feels when you make your film, you submitting it, and you thinking that the gods are saying yay or nay. Yeah. But the reality, I want to make sure that my process is really fair and across the board honest. And that's what we do. And then it's hard, it's difficult, because there's some things that we can't screen. That's amazing. And it's just what it is, though. And then sometimes too, and I'm gonna close on this. One thing I don't like about festivals, and I complain about it myself, is my festival for a short film is 30 minutes or less, right? Now, the business of festivals and programming, sometimes you don't want to program a 28-minute film because you know that that's eating up time that 4 shorts could go into, right? Yeah. But here's the thing. If you, on your rules and regulations, you state it's 30 minutes or less, then you need to honor that. And everyone that submit those 28-minute pieces need to have a fair chance at getting in, because you mentioned in your question about the chances of getting in and so forth. I give every single film the opportunity to get in, no matter how long it is, because what happens is if I have a bunch of those 30 minutes or 25 minutes or whatever, those long pieces, that's up to me to talk to one of my venues and say, look, I need to get it for longer because I need to program another slot. I pay more to make sure that all the films that's being submitted to the Indie Short Film Festival has a fair chance. Not every film festival is that way. So, and I have these conversations with other festival directors about this all the time. Even with Sundance, I'm like, Sundance have 17,000 submissions, 11,000 shorts.
17,000.
Yeah, 11,000 shorts, 5,000 features. Now those films that Miramax has financed, Madeline Bay financed. They're going to get on that screen.
They're going to get it.
It's not a regular submission for them. So now the amount of films that's being screened is really truly not open for me or for anyone other filmmakers to submit to, because it's really dwindled down. So it's a difficult thing, but the reality is just know your film festival, get to learn the film festivals, because without the filmmakers, there is no festival. So talk to the film festival, talk to the filmmakers who attend my festival, attend Lisa's, and so forth, and ask them, hey, how did you get in, or how was the communication with them, and blah, 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 blah. And most of them will be honest and tell you, it's a great festival. Like, they communicated with us and blah, 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 blah. And we tried to get over and get more tickets. They say no. It's a cool festival. So, yeah, talk to the people, I would say.
Love it.
And that was a long answer, but
No, that was great. And I realized I asked a few questions in one, but I guess they're all somewhat related. Lisa talked to us about the submission processes for your films and the films that eventually get selected for your festival.
Yeah, we're also on Film Freeway, and because we're because we're a quarterly, we're essentially open all the time. You can submit whenever, and we will have so we had February, May, August, and November were our 4 festivals, and we have had films, and I'm glad you mentioned this about the whole. For me, it's time. It's not number of films. So I'm not going to say for November I can't say we're accepting 20 films or whatever the number is, because it's about how long is the film, and like Ty mentioned, yes, our short, I believe ours is 30 as well, considered a short. So yes, a 30-minute short has equal chance as a 4-minute short. So, and like he said, I think most festivals kind of target 6 films in a 90-minute block, if they're 15 minutes each. So that's kind of what you gauge it on. And again, you're going to get 4-minute films, you're going to get 30-minute films. So it's not always going to be 6. But also, like Ty said, I highly encourage filmmakers to communicate with festivals. Highly. I love when they do, because they do get a chance to have a better understanding of how it works. I do not hesitate to answer those questions. I had a filmmaker submit, I want to say it was like a 37-minute, and he was asking, well, would this be programmed in the feature slot or in the short slot, since it's longer than the short? And I told him, I'm like, look, first of all, I was honest with him. I said, this is a great film, but it's too long. Cut this film. If you want to submit a 30 or even 29-minute film, if you can cut out some time, I can almost guarantee you that this is going to get in, or maybe I did tell him, actually, yeah, I told him it would get in if you could cut it down. And it was a matter of time. It was a matter of time, and it was a matter of improving the film. There were so many things, so many scenes that we don't need that scene to know what's going on, and cutting it down improves the pacing, and it would just make for a better experience. So definitely communicate with the film festival. Ask those questions. If you land on a festival's Film Freeway page, and what's written there in the rules doesn't we can't write every single scenario that we're going to get. So if your film fits is a little bit different from, the times are off, or, is it a drama, or is it a, genre-wise, communicate, ask which one is the best category. I don't have a zillion categories, because I want them to. It doesn't matter what genre it is. At the end of the day, if it's good, it's good. And I basically go on what they say it is. Okay, if you say it's a, mockumentary or whatever it is, then that's what it is. But chances of getting, was that the question? Chances of getting accepted?
Yes.
It's good, and process. What the judges say is good. So we have our ballot. And when those scores and those comments come in, one of the things that we have, I encourage the judges to use the comment section. So we have the numbers, and we have comment sections, and they'll always ask me, well, what do I put in the comments, or what, do I have to fill this out? And there are comment sections, definitely put something here, and this comment section is optional. Or if you feel like you're on the fence, I ask the judges to make the hard decisions. If it's because there is a award-worthy, recommends, and do not recommend, or categories within the Film Freeway platform that they can select. And then there's a maybe. there's a maybe category. And I said, please, whatever you do, don't select maybe. Maybe is not helpful to me. If you're feeling maybe, then give me some comments to, select one or the other, yes or no, and then give me some comments why. Because if that film comes in and if it's really close, to that line of accept or don't accept, then I want to look at those comments, and then that's when we have the discussions, Okay, why did you say, yes? Why did you say no? But your score reflects otherwise, so that's when we have those discussions. So, and do we have films that, like you said, we don't have Miramax films that are going to get in, and no, we don't play any favorites. My judging panel is, like you. I have people around the world that judge for us, and we try to make sure that our judging panel is not attached to anybody, and we don't use locals. As much as I would love to use locals, we want it to be a clean judging panel. We don't want there to be any affiliations or favoritism. So
that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have the unbiased look at all the projects. Kazy, let's talk about the New Work festival that you created, and as far as the submission process, as well as how the films get selected and what the criteria you're looking for.
Sure. Obviously, Film Freeway is the hub. They provide all the infrastructure that you need to successfully run a film festival. I really don't have any complaints about them at all. We jumped along with them. I have a committee, a judging committee. I tried to take people that I knew that were in the industry, but then also people that were not, because I think it's really important to have folks who don't have any real connection to the industry but just love film in general, because that's really your audience, right, at the end of the day. Also, committee is a wide array of age as well, because I feel like it's really important to not have blind spots, because I did find, especially this past year, that depending on the generation, the opinions varied greatly, like wild. Like you would literally have a film that was rated 9 out of 10 for a certain age group, and then the other age group would be like 1, do not include, which was navigate that, which we did. The submission process is simple, but in terms of judging criteria, the number one reason that we rejected films this year was sound mix. We cannot accept films that are not finished. And if your film has not been mixed, that means your film has not been finished. And unfortunately, I even called filmmakers. I would give them that personal touch. Like if they had a strong project that did have good performance and whatnot, I would say, hey, look, this is why we cannot include you. We have a dynamic sound system. It's going to show, and your film is just not going to resonate with all. You can't have one character that's talking to another, and one is the levels are high and the other are low. It's very unprofessional. So some people took that and were very grateful, because sometimes I guess they don't get any feedback as to why they're not going to be included. But I felt like they just didn't know, right? Especially because if it was like their first project coming out the gate or whatever. And how can you actually, if you're trying to build community, right, as a film festival, then you kind of have to act like, it and be like, hey, let me help you. Even if you're not ready now, you could be ready next year, just get your project finished. So it was pretty clear cut, because I felt like story-wise, like you said, subjective, super subjective. One person sees something and they think it's like the Mona Lisa, other person looks at it and they just think it's a turd, and they're like, this is the most boring thing I've seen. And unfortunately, that's art, and that's okay. So there was no real focus on what we thought was a stronger story as opposed to what was like not as strong. It was really came down to technical. So if your technical is there, right? So if you've been shot well, if your sound design is good, your sound mix is good, the chances are really high for you to get in, Performance, again, also very, very subjective. Some people will watch, I don't know, some people watch Leonardo DiCaprio and they think amazing, and then other people are like, did you see Man in the Iron Mask? I don't know. That's just how it is. So if you're dealing with subjectivity like that, you can't even really bang filmmakers over performance, because again, you don't know what are their what connections did they have? How were they able to get talent? If someone's shooting a movie in like Oklahoma, where there isn't a huge like artistic community like it would be somewhere on the East Coast, they have to cast their friends. They have to do things like that to get the project done. So we try to celebrate every level of creativity, but the technical aspects absolutely have to be there, and that is a hard line for us. But in terms of what would happen on those Zoom calls, I mean, there's some contentious ones, and I am included in the vote, but I'm not acting like the king. Like my vote, it's one vote. That's it. That's what I have. So if people want to get into it about stuff, I let them. But I will remind my committee that just like we're really don't get caught up in what you think is a good story or not, because that is super subjective, right? And a lot of times filmmakers that are making short films are just telling stories that are really close to them and they feel on their heart that they really want to get them out into the world. So, I think that pretty much sums it up for us. We just try to keep that level of quality high. And I think that's really important, because you want your audience to feel like they're not at an indie film festival. You know what I'm saying? Because if they feel that they're in an indie film festival, your word of mouth is going to not be so great. But if they're coming in and they're very surprised at the quality of the projects and they get excited, then your word of mouth for the audiences that you're trying to drive to your venue, I think, have a much better chance of growing.
Those are all fantastic answers. I mean, I know there was a lot to talk about for each of you, but getting back to genres, what has been the most popular genre that filmmakers have been submitting to it? When they do submit, and if it's a genre that gets tons of submission, how do you handle that particular selection process when there's like a deluge of, like, say, horror or deluge of another genre? How does that work?
Drama. Easily.
Yeah, drama.
Right, am I right?
I get a lot of documentaries too, but drama. I think I get a lot of documentary because maybe because of who I have. I've advertised who I have that's overseeing that, and she's my partner actually. We just did a documentary together that we're working right now. It's out, and we've been getting paid to screen it in places. So I think documentary's been pretty heavy, but I would say drama as well, because I'm not gonna say they're easier to make, but good comedy is more difficult to make.
Yes.
So the timing,
Agreed.
comedic timing is not that easy, and for a lot of people to make it well. But yeah, I would say drama. I'm trying to process it in my mind because we get so many different types of submissions. It's so diverse, but yeah, I would have to say drama. Not enough horror. I need more horror. Yeah, I need more.
And Kazy, you actually have a segment that specializes in horror. So does that mean that you actually have a lot of horror submissions?
Well, like they said, drama, but we reserve the right to recategorize you. Like, we will. Like, if you're coming in as a drama and we think that, and people, I think, they just default to drama because they're like, oh, it's dramatic. But we'll be like, we've had that happen. We had art house pieces that were obviously art house that people had submitted as dramas, and we had to recategorize them, or docu dramas, and just it's in our terms. It's really long terms. It was written by an attorney, so we have like really long terms so that people understand what they're getting into. But in terms of horror, I just the way I design my blocks, right, when I'm programming, is I want to take the audience on a very eclectic ride. So I will not have a drama block. I will not have a comedic block. I will not have a horror block. I won't have a documentary block. every block of films that we show at New York Independent Film Festival is every genre. So when the audience comes in, I literally go up the stage and I tell them, hey, look, you're going for a ride. This is a motion picture museum you are stepping into. So you're gonna see some stuff that you're like amazed by, and the person next to you is literally gonna be like, yeah, like, and that's just what art is. And I celebrate that, and I want people to discuss. I actually want people that are sitting next to each other that come together to walk out and be like, I hated that last piece, and the other person be like, what are you talking about? That last piece was banging. Like that spoke to my soul. Like, so for like the roundabout way, like in terms of horror, yeah, we did get a fair amount of submissions, but I feel like horror is one of those genres to do well is tough, because, you know, I'll look at like the quality marks. They can hit all of those quality markers, right? Like you could have been shot beautifully. The sound design could be great. The score could be really strong, right? The mix is there, but just the scares that they go for don't really hit, right? And it's just simply a matter of editing, right? So I just felt like, as a horror fan myself, I mean, I have a shameless plug in 3, 2, 1. I have my own feature film called Mirror Life: Modern Zombies that's going to be released October 14th on VOD. So I'm deep. I love horror. I like put myself out there so hard trying to get my own feature film done. And I know what a competitive genre is, because a lot of people think that they can just get into horror because it's a popular genre and make something good. And I can always tell the difference between a filmmaker who is making the film because they think it's going to be popular because it's horror, and someone who actually really, really loves horror. So the thought process for our kind of horror spinoff is to really showcase strong horror projects that people are going to be very pleasantly surprised, and just take people for like a non-competitive kind of a journey, right? Because I'm not going to have horror filmmakers like competing against each other in terms of like, maybe we'll do something fun like a costume contest, but like other than that, I just wanted to do something that would just kind of celebrate that difficult genre to nail, right? That was my really long answer. Sorry.
I'll pop in.
Yes.
Being a quarterly festival has been interesting in terms of what is received. For our February festival, we got a lot of across the board, a little bit of everything. For May, I don't know what it was, but it was like the stars aligned. It was that time of year. We had a lot of films submitted for AAPI. And so our May festival ended up being AAPI focused, Asian American Pacific Islander. Several films submitted, many films submitted by Asian American Pacific Islander filmmakers. August, we had a ton of student filmmakers, tons of student filmmakers. So it kind of, well, we had a student filmmaker block from in the entire festival. And November is shaping up to be horror. We're getting a lot of horror submissions. So it's being quarterly and having several a year, it's kind of fun seeing, what we get. And it's a, we have no control over what we're getting, but, we kind of shape the theme of the event based on that. So that's what it's looking like. It's looking like November is going to lean horror for us.
The themes just appear for you.
They do.
Well,
They
that's
do.
awesome.
They
That's
do.
awesome.
The guy Nathan isn't here from Genre Blast, but I was just at his festival last weekend, and he had some amazing horror films. He had top-notch horror films. I was really curious. I mean, I talked to the filmmakers, but I was wondering of their background, because their experience level, because they were that good. They were like almost like, now this is my favorite young horror filmmaker, but Ari Aster. And I talked with him in Sundance a few times, and we were talking about just his process. These shorts were like on his level, like Hereditary level. And I was like, okay, something's going on here. Like, we have more independent filmmakers that's actually pumping out some really good stuff.
Right on. All right, so you guys have chosen the films. You have your festival weekend. What have been the biggest challenges during the days of your festivals? What's the biggest challenges you face when audiences come into the theaters and watch your films?
For us, things have really been really smooth in in most areas, but volunteers, so I live in Charlottesville, and we have a lot of different events. I promote my event the same weekend as Festival of the Book, which is a festival that's been going on for like 20-something, 30 years in Charlottesville. And some people say I have taken the steam away from them a little bit, but I don't believe that. I think literary and film can coexist, right? We have John Grisham. He lives in Charlottesville. He makes books. They turn into film. They coexist. But long story short, we have shortage of volunteers sometimes because so much stuff going on. People volunteering at UVA. They're volunteering at the Festival of the Book, my festival, Live Arts, which is another organization. And so volunteers are so important for a festival because they make the patron experience better. So if you shorten your volunteers, you can have a very organized event, but the festival is not going to be the way it should be because you lack volunteers. The goal for me for next year is for a patron to look to their right, see a volunteer, look to their left, see one. And then if you close your eyes and you open it, one need to be right in front of your face. That is what I'm trying to accomplish for 2026 March. But I would say the volunteers, not having enough volunteers that I felt comfortable with, but also the ticketing system. I use Eventive, which is the same one that Sundance uses, and it works fine. But sometimes the customers or the filmmakers, when they're trying to do certain things, they tell me that they couldn't do it. And I'm like, well, okay, let me try it. I said, I just did it. So having that kind of thing where the customer is always right, but they really aren't. so that's kind of that's been a challenge, managing the patrons and even the filmmakers, because they do a lot of last minute stuff, and it just, I don't know how, what your experience is, Lisa, or what have you, but sometimes, you tell the filmmakers, hey, you get one full pass per film, or if it's two of you, then I give you two, but you get up to 6 film blocks, and you get the launch party. The launch party is free, and all the other things are free, panel discussions, but you get 6 film blocks, including your own. They get confused. The emails go out, and they don't come back to me, and they come back on the day of when they showing up. So I do a lot of management on that side of things.
Okay. Lisa?
I'm struggling a bit with how to answer that.
Okay. If you have any challenges, that's great.
And that's that's yeah. I mean, I think we communicate well. We communicate probably more than we should or have to, because people don't read emails. You can send the information out and people don't read them, and so you have to drill it in. And I kind of have a little bit of a different philosophy with volunteers. We have had enough volunteers, but we also don't overschedule our volunteers. We want our volunteers to have something to do. And if we have, I think there's such thing as too many, where people are, just standing around with not much to do. So we like to have a smaller number of volunteers and give them lots to do, so that they really feel involved, that they feel like they're, contributing, and that they feel like, their service is valued. So that's kind of been our philosophy with approaching volunteers, and we treat them really nicely.
Send them to me.
I don't know if they'll go. I don't know if they'll go to Charlottesville.
Send me those extras.
Richmond, Charlottesvelle,
But
why not?
It's not. Yeah, it's not an hour. It's an hour. But I will. I will. But yeah, we again, being quarterly, we're always, our volunteer flag is always on, and so we're getting people submitting all the time. But I kind of not necessarily a problem or a challenge, but I do wish that people who came to festivals would not just come for the film that they're supporting. I do wish that, the audience were there to see everything, or to support all of the different filmmakers. And, that's a big ask, but because that's the kind of audience person that I am. I'm going to go, I want to see everything. I want, if there's multiple blocks happening at the same time, obviously you got to pick and choose what you're doing if it's that big of a festival. But yeah, I'm going to come. I'm going to stay all day, and I just try to encourage audience members to do that, and get a full festival pass and stay for the whole thing, and because again, it's about community. It's about supporting the arts, and if the art is not supported, then the festival might not happen next year. So if it's important to you to have this festival in your community, then make sure that you support as much as you can.
Yeah, let me just piggyback a little bit. So like Lisa stated, a lot of programming happens, and that's how we have a lot of things. We have 5 different venues, and some of them are happening at the same time, so we can have overlap, because we want overlap because everyone can't go to the screenings, right? So if we overlap some, then that pulls you here. You got to make a decision, and so everyone's not going to be in the same place, which works out very well for festivals. That's why you do it, to kind of have it where it's dispersed, so you can have more people supporting the festival. That's just a business thing. But it was really like, so when we have these 5 different venues, all in the downtown mall, very convenient, but people are moving around, so that requires you to have volunteers. And like Sundance, and I always bring back Sundance because that's like my, my go-to.
That's the mecca of film festivals.
Yeah, that's like my go-to in America, in the States. They typically have around 2,000 volunteers. So I'm just trying to get 50. So, I don't think that should be too difficult. So, yeah.
Very good. Kazy, talk about any roadblocks or challenges you've faced come festival time.
Filmmakers, read your emails. Please. Wow. Whew. That's the one.
Yeah.
That is the one. That is the one. I mean, that's
Please
the one.
elaborate. Please elaborate.
Yeah. I mean, just, we try to phrase, like when we send out the emails, we try to phrase them and make them as simple and bullet pointed, as easy to read as possible. And you will be shocked at how many people just read the first sentence. Like a simply bullet pointed, and you literally will say, please read carefully for important information. And you put that in a bigger font and you highlight it and you make it a different font. And then they still only read the first sentence. I mean, that was wild this year. So, I don't know what to do about that. I really don't. Maybe start making phone calls, sending out texts to follow up. But the one thing that this past year drove me nuts is we spent time on our graphic design to create our Newark Independent Film Festival logo. Okay, we want it to look a certain way. We designed it that way. So when you go on Film Freeway and don't use the logo that we gave you, you don't use our laurel, right? You design one from Film Freeway that looks like a child made it, super generic and basic. It literally, I start to twitch because I'm like, we took all that time to custom the official selection, et cetera, and then they just go and make their own, and because they didn't get to that section of the email. Drives me crazy.
They want them to look uniform on their poster. Yeah. It looks neater if they all,
They think.
You do it?
Yeah, I make mine.
Oh.
I don't care what festival accept me.
Guilty.
I'm making my own.
Guilty. Oh.
White
I'm with you. I agree.
I got the custom laurel. Everybody to each their own. But when I don't see my custom laurel on a poster, I start to.
All right.
Shame on you, Ty.
We only have a few more minutes, so I'd like to take some audience questions. If anyone has a question in the audience for, yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I heard you all talk a lot about emphasizing quality in the submissions. Do you also think about variety at all in terms of different kinds of things that you're accepting?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's huge for me. That's the most important, is variety. I had to have not a certain number, but I have to have international films. I have to have subtitles, English subtitles, so making sure that the film is in the native language. I have to have, I have to have the variety because I'm all about, anyone who knows me, they know even my business, my main business, is all about promoting diversity through arts and culture. That's all I'm about. But not all, but that's like the, my thing. So that is what I shoot for, and I have that conversation because that also plays into the subjectivity of everything too, because that is being subjective. If I had 200 comedy, right, and then I only have 10 dramas, and I want drama, then I'm gonna probably program as many of those 10 I can and show a little bit less love to the comedy because I need the variety. I need the variety. So you can't, as a filmmaker, guys, when you guys submit, do not take things personal when you submit into these festivals. Trust me. One, they don't know what they're talking about. So your stuff is good. It just probably didn't fit, or like this gentleman, his question, we're going for something, and we're going for more variety. Maybe maybe I have too many comedies, or maybe I don't have enough horror, and I'm looking for horror. So I go to a film festival specifically looking for horror. So if I go to a film festival because I'm not receiving enough horror submissions, that right there already reduces the number of open slots to other filmmakers. So yes, so the variety is a huge thing for me. And yeah.
Yeah, not only with genre, but subject matter. So for sure, and we too, in our marketing, whatever we're putting out, we encourage women, films from women, LGBTQ, all kinds of diversity, ethnic diversity, so we just, even just putting that, on your landing page for Film Freeway, that tells the filmmaker, okay, yes, this is a place for you. So it does end up being, quality being equal, by all means, we're selecting, different types of filmmakers across the board, for sure. Quality I think is a top bar for all of us. But then, okay, step two, yes, diversity for sure.
In terms of the programming, I mean, our blocks are highly eclectic. It's just obviously it comes based on the submissions, but even when we're programming, even if we have a lopsided number of dramas, to say we will split that up so that you're not getting a completely drama heavy block. I think that it's one of those things where you are dependent on what's getting submitted to you, right, to a degree. And I look at it in terms of if the films are unable to hit the quality markers, I would rather show fewer and not try to fill up as many days or slots as we have, and just keep the bar really, really high in terms of quality. In terms of diversity of storytelling, we want all the different stories, all of them, as many as they come, because we want to know different perspectives, because someone in one part of the country is going to have a completely different perspective than someone else in another part of the country. And then if someone's coming from, Germany or wherever, they're going to have a different perspective. I love seeing storytellers from different places get and see their vision on the big screen, where realistically is the venue that you want. Like, you want to see your work on a 30-foot screen where you can see those nuances and you can catch the performance and you can really see all of the moments. There's something magical about it. So in terms of, what is the criteria other than us, it's just we just want quality. And when we program, my specific thought process is take the audience for a ride that they otherwise would not have gone on. Because a lot of audience members stick to specific genres. A lot of people are like, I don't really like dramas. Well, guess what? If you're coming to my film festival, you're gonna watch one. It's just what it's gonna be, and it'll challenge you. And maybe that person will walk away with a new outlook on what an actual drama is, or whatever that particular, or art house. Like art house films have a hard time getting placed because a lot of those people, the stories that they made aren't even necessarily, when you watch them for the first time, coherent. So I have an art house degree, like I have an art house category to give them some, we want to celebrate them too. You did something super weird, but we love the fact that it's weird. We want to show you weird
genre.
thing. Yeah, but it takes so much work to make a movie. So it's like, you want to include as many people's stories as possible because you respect the art form, because it is so hard. Even a short film, a 5-minute short film, the amount of work that you have to put in to do it right, to hit all those mile markers. I want to celebrate that. I want more of it. And anyway, sorry, I always rant.
Joe, do we have time for one more audience question? Does anyone in the audience have one more question? If not,
I do if they don't.
Oh,
I have a question.
you have
I
a
have
question.
questions for them.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Controversy. How do you handle controversial films? I know how I do, but occasionally, you will see festivals under fire for something that they're screening or how they're handling a screening. Have you had that? And if so, how have you handled that? Or have you avoided it?
Well, I don't believe in censorship when it comes down to art, so I really stand strong on that. I stand very firm on that. I've screened films, like for instance, I have a film block called Black Expressions in American Cinema, and sometimes people be like, well, why is it a black? Why does it have to be a black film block? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I want to highlight that, just like I have women in film. I have a women in film block. So I stand firm on like anti-censorship. It's a thing that that I talk about. I've been on panels at UVA talking about the same thing. As far as that, I haven't had anything that I ever got any real pushback other than kind of like the questions on, just why not have a film festival just films and not just like these different demographics that
Right.
you're kind of seeking. So,
All right.
I'm a firm proponent of the First Amendment. It's what people died to give us this right, and I think that artists should never be censored. So, and we've had projects that amongst the committee, people were like, I don't think we can show this, and I was like, did it hit the quality markers? And it did. So it's going to get shown. It's just what it is. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is like celebrate. Everyone is telling their story for a specific reason. So who are we to say that we don't want to show that or whatever because we're afraid of how it's going to make people feel? If it made people feel, it did what it was supposed to do. It's art.
yeah, I don't screen X-rated films.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's like that's like my
We'll put the
limit.
limits on porn. Yeah. for sure.
I don't. You can go to you can go online for that. You don't have to see it at my festival, but but we have 39% women films by women this year. We had 26% by BIPOC, and other stats that's that keep us where we need to be.
Lisa, I was curious what prompted that question. Did you see a film that was submitted that made your jaw drop? Like, oh my God, I don't think we could have shown this.
No, this was not something that I have faced. But no, I've seen other festivals that have faced significant backlash for some choices. And yeah, I was just curious.
You know what, Lisa? It wasn't pushback though, but not yet anyway. But I am accepting this Pakistani film that was submitted to me that's really good. And I have some Jewish friends who they always having these conversations. So I can see probably if they're in the audience that they may, you know what I'm saying, because it could be, they will say propaganda, but we'll see, we'll find out. But I don't back down from it because it's art and it's really good.
All right. That concludes this panel with this great panelists of film festival creators and programmers here. And thank you so much, all of you, for being a part of this great panel.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
More to come here at DC Shorts.
And we have flyers right here for the Indie Short Film Festival and stickers too. I'm a fun guy.
Nice. I love it.
Water bottle, your computer.